Good morning, good afternoon, good evening around the world. My name is Doug Brudke. I'm the founder and CEO of Global Chamber. Uh, Earlier, I believe it was last week, I was speaking with one of the major insurance companies that's a member of Global Chamber Alliance. And we were talking through just some of the things that are going on around the world. And he said, the number one issue right now, in fact, for the last couple of years for US companies is mental health. And with their leaders in particular, there are a variety of different programs that are being incorporated into corporations and hopefully every size company to help through what's going on. Life seems to be faster than ever. Technology is changing. The world geopolitics are evolving and changing, and who knows what is going on necessarily, and who's friends and who's enemies with whatever. There seems to be, through social media and other mechanisms, just changes in society. And change is hard, period. And when change seems to be not necessarily for the positive, it's even harder. So, as a leader, what to do? So, earlier this year, we decided, well, one of the things to do is to address it. One is, let's talk about it. Let's talk about it with people who know what's going on. And I can't think of anybody better than Laura and Barry Ash to be able to not just handle the day-to-day activity, but avoid burnout and avoid bigger problems. Smaller little things build up and then suddenly it becomes something that's unmanageable. One of our team members, just in the last few days, we had lost touch with, and is like for a long time, many, many months, almost a year. And we kind of just started to recognize it a few months ago. And so we started to reach out. And then I will say, positively speaking, this weekend we heard that everything is okay, except there were all sorts of things that have happened that are not normal. And so she's kind of put things aside, everything aside, and taking some time off. We don't ever want to get to that point. We want to be able to manage as leaders or just as folks in society and in our businesses and in our personal lives in ways that just get us through and hopefully have positive impact. At the end of the day, we want to do more than just get through. We want to be able to have successful businesses, have successful families, have positive impact in the community, like our two speakers today. So, Laura and Barry, thank you so much for kicking this series off a few months ago. And today I understand the aspect we're going to be focusing in on is sleep and getting healthy sleep and building the type of strength and resilience that we all need to push forward. Is that what we're going to be talking about today?
You've got it in one.
Beautiful. Well, thank you for taking the time, and we really appreciate your expertise and your time. And I turn the program over to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you so much, Doug. It's really great to be here with everybody today. Just say a quick hello to everybody that's joined us. It's wonderful to see you all here. And you know what, Doug, what you're saying, I don't know whether anyone else would agree with this. Let us know in the comments box. Life is just so quick nowadays, isn't it? It's just so rapid. There's so much happening.
I can't believe we're starting the second quarter already.
I know, I know. And also, there's so much distraction. We sat just a minute ago, just in complete silence, just relaxing, before we came on and did this. And there are so many things pulling our attention, whether they're notifications or thinking, oh, I can't forget to do this tomorrow. I can't forget to do that tomorrow. Or, oh, I've got to do my social media. Or, oh, I can't forget that for the kids. Or whatever it is, there's always something that's trying to distract you, isn't there, from being...
Can you remember the last time you actually sat in silence, even if it was for 5 minutes, with no stimulus at all? Stimulus is just, we're getting forced stimulus all the time. And sleep's the only time that we are distracted from all of these stimuluses. And if we are struggling to get our sleep and we're struggling to stay asleep, then we are not separating. We are just continually being bombarded. And that's why looking at your sleep and getting your sleep on point is so important, not just for your physical health, but your mental health and your emotional health too.
Most definitely. So I'm going to share my screen. Here we go. Just checking you can see my screen. I'm just going to bring up the chat box here, if I can possibly.
Marlene, can you see the screen okay?
Yeah, can you give us
on my screen there?
give us a thumbs up?
Right there,
Excellent.
Thank you very much.
Love it. Thank you. Yeah, so today we're going to look at sleeping smart.
Yeah, that's from Britain.
We're going to look at some sleep facts. We're going to have a look at what sleep is, what happens when we don't get enough sleep. We're going to have a look at the 4 stages of sleep, which just absolutely fascinates me.
But also we're going to have time to break out, network, having the conversation around sleep as well.
Definitely.
Get to know each other a little bit more.
We're going to go into 8 factors to get your bedroom set up, the right environment for sleep. And we're going to have a look at what we can do in the day, because a lot of people will get stressed that they can't sleep at night, but there are actually clues throughout the day and things that we can do to prepare us for sleep at night, isn't it? So that is what we're going to be focusing on today. Very briefly, who are we? We are Laura and Barry Ash. We're a husband and wife team.
Yes, those pictures are of us.
Those pictures are us. We are the founders of Rock Solid Health, a program called Energized Leadership, where we help people overcome burnout by finding fulfillment outside of work. We are authors, hosts of the Stress Less Live More podcast, which launched just last week, a couple of weeks ago, and we're also official volunteers for Great Ormond Street, where we go in dressed as superheroes and see all the kids. My background is I'm a former police officer and counter-terrorism intelligence officer, and I was actually medically retired 12 years ago. That's how long we've been running our business, because I have a diagnosis of bipolar and OCD. So sleep for me is essential. You know, without a shadow of a doubt, when it comes to mental health, our sleep should be our number 1 foundation. And especially when I was working shift work, it was very turbulent, shall we say.
Brief background into me. I got over 30 years of experience in the health and wellness industry. Started off in the leisure industry. Then I became a prison officer. I spent 3 years walking the landings, looking after the welfare of the prisoners. And then I went into become a PTI within the prison service, so physical training instructor. And I headed up the wellbeing team in the department I worked at and in the establishment I worked at. And now we run our own business, Rock Solid Loz Says. We've got our own podcast, we've got books out there, and we dress for superheroes at the weekend.
There you go. So let's just have a look at some stats first, because I think it's really interesting to look at these sorts of things right from the outset. So between 10 and 30% of adults actually struggle with insomnia, and this is from the sleepfoundation.org. If you ever want to know any facts or stats, sleepfoundation.org is absolutely fantastic. Drinking more than 2 servings of alcohol per day actually decreases sleep quality by 39.2%.
And that's the word we want to there, is the sleep quality. It might help you get to sleep, or you think it's going to make you sleep better, but the quality of your sleep, 39% is disrupted. It's not good.
And the thing is, a lot of people might think that alcohol sends them off to sleep, which yes, it can do, but the way it's metabolized in your body means that you get fractured sleep, something called fractured sleep. And around 75% of adults with depression actually struggle and have sleep issues. So we can see here that sleep is very closely linked with our mental health and also how we manage our emotions, which we'll talk about in a little bit. So my first question to you all, and I'll invite you to put this in the chat box if you wish, is what is sleep? If you was to define sleep as something, what would you say? And sometimes I invite people to say, think about it as you're talking to a child or a 7-year-old. What would you define sleep as? What would that be for you?
I love it when you say define it as to a 7-year-old, because a lot of us, we try to overcomplicate things with fancy words and fancy descriptions. Let's just say it really raw. What is sleep?
Yes. Do you like sleep?
Yeah.
I love sleep.
You like it more than me.
I absolutely love sleep.
I love going to sleep, but I love early mornings. That's the way I see it.
Yeah, yeah.
So what we got here? We
Got a
got rest
couple of-
periods.
So
Time for us to rest, reset, recharge. I love the
yes,
R's. Recovery, recharge, revitalize.
Revitalise.
Oh, I love them. Brilliant stuff.
Yeah, I absolutely love those. Really great answers there, and keep them coming in if you're still thinking about
Ya
it.
quedó, Cris. Pues con gusto.
Oh, if you wouldn't mind popping yourself on mute, that'd be amazing. Thank you. So there is actually a definition of sleep. So Yogesh says sleep is rehash for the moment, battery charge of a human. Yes. I know we all plug our phones in at night, don't we? Should we plug ourselves in? So sleep is actually a condition of body and mind that typically reoccurs for several hours a night in which the nervous system is relatively inactive and the eyes closed, the postural muscles relaxed, and consciousness practically suspended. And look, I'm going to put this out there. I think sleep is fascinating because we go to bed, we close our eyes, and we go into this place where everything just happens automatically. And I find that one of the most fascinating things ever. And we're going to later on, we're going to go into the different stages of
Especially
sleep,
when
what
we're
happens
looking at-
in your body.
It's when we're looking at dream states and stuff like that. But what's
Yeah.
fascinating for me is our body knows exactly what we need to do.
Yes.
We don't overcomplicate it. It knows exactly what we need to do. But it's only during the daytime hours when we get this human brain of ours, the mind, we make life really complicated.
Yeah.
That's why I think sleep's really fascinating, because the body knows exactly what we do. We shut off our consciousness and it does what it has to do.
And I think when we actually give sleep that level of respect, because I think for a lot of us, we do take sleep for granted. And I know when we work with people and we say to them, we need you to get to bed at a reasonable hour, it's almost like we're dealing with teenagers.
I sleep when I'm dead.
Right? And we're dealing with teenagers and we get a little bit of a strop from them sometimes. But it's so important that we do get our sleep, because sleep is just as important as hydration, as nutrition. And it, you know, and when it comes to living a healthy lifestyle, we spend a third of our life sleeping, a third of our life. And as everybody says, sleep allows our mind, our body to repair, to recharge every night. And it helps us to maintain that healthy lifestyle and also stave off diseases
What I
as
will
well,
say,
which we're
you
going
said
to.
it's just as important as hydration and nutrition and exercise. I think it's more important, because if we don't get enough adequate sleep and we're not recovered, our resilience levels becomes really low. And the likes of us to drink enough water, the likes of us to eat healthy food goes out the window, because we look for those high stimulating caffeinated drinks, those sugary foods, because we haven't had enough sleep to increase our resilience. Say, no, I need to drink my water. No, I need to nourish my body with healthy foods. So this is why I always say sleep is the most important thing we need to get nailed before we even start looking at diets and exercises and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So what are some of what happens then when we don't get enough sleep? Because I think it's good to actually look at this and understand what's going on here. So when we don't get enough sleep, you'll end up getting sick more often, because in actual fact, when we sleep, there's a part of our sleep that we go into called deep sleep. And that is when our body actually starts to repair. So if you are someone who is getting sick, you know, quite often, then it could be that sleep is a problem for you. It impacts our heart health, doesn't it?
Yes. Yeah.
And that's because we're not able to, when we go to sleep, and we'll talk about this a little bit more as we go on after our next networking break. When we go to sleep at night, everything slows down, even our heart rate. And it gives our heart a chance to kind of almost recover itself from the day.
It's a rest period. Like we rest our muscles after we've done a long, strenuous day, or we've been to the gym, or we've exercised. This is the same for our heart when we go to bed. It gives that heart, that's because it's a muscle, it gives it time to have a bit of a chill session.
Definitely. Higher rates of certain cancers have been known without without sleep. So things like breast, colorectal and prostate cancer, all these sorts of things can again contribute to sleep, because, you know, again, we're not resting our body. You've got memory and decision making is diminished. this is a huge one for a lot of business owners, because we need to be on all the time,
I thought you
right?
were playing the maracas.
I was playing the right. And you know, if we're not getting that proper sleep, I don't know about you, Baz, but if I haven't had a good night's sleep,
I won't talk to you for the first part of the day.
this is true, because I do get very grumpy, but yeah, I do. But I cannot make decisions. I cannot think. I'm very emotionally vulnerable, so I call it, I get a bit crocodile, I get a bit snappy, I get a bit teary. I basically turn into a 4-year-old.
I think most people can relate to that.
Yeah,
But
definitely.
even mental health issues arise. So you're more susceptible to get depressive feelings, or anxiety levels are heightened if we're not getting enough sleep. And this is due to our resilience.
Yes.
Our resilience is not as strong. And it moves us on to becoming obese, putting on weight. And as I spoke about that before, because our resilience is not as high, we are not energized. So we are looking for high calorific food.
Yeah.
We are looking for stimulation through our diet and the things we drink as well. And so we are more prone to put on more weight, because we are over consuming food to get that energy that we are missing from the revitalization from our sleep.
Definitely, which then has a knock-on effect.
And this leads us on to diabetes, because we are looking at high calorific foods. High calorific foods are full of sugars and processed foods. So if we are eating more and more processed foods that are high in sugars, our body's ability to process that, and our insulin levels go all over the place. We are more susceptible to getting diabetes.
When Baz and I, yes, absolutely, I guess it also causes stress and hypertension in later phases.
100%.
Definitely. When Baz and I were doing a lot of fitness training, so we used to do a lot of weight loss for clients. When they would come to us, the usual conversation that you would imagine would be, what's your diet like, and are you exercising? We didn't have any of those conversations. Our first port of call with them is, what's your sleep like? How are you sleeping? And they would often be confused by this question. But we found that once we were able to nail their sleep, they were actually able to make better decisions with their food, have the energy to exercise, which would then have a knock-on effect with everything else that was going on in their lives. So if you are someone that is looking to lose weight, I would say address your sleep first,
100%.
because you will be absolutely surprised how much of a difference that can make. So as we said, we're going to have some breakout rooms in terms of some networking, because that's what the Global Chamber is absolutely fantastic at, is making connections and bringing us together. And this is the first of 3. So we're going to have this breakout room, and then we're going to come back from that, and we want to talk to you about the 4 different stages of sleep. So we're actually going to dive into what happens when we go to sleep, what's that rhythm, and what actually happens to our body. And we are also, I believe, going to be looking at the 8 factors of sleep, but we'll see what time we have for the breakout rooms. Jem, would you be able to put a few people in breakout rooms if we did 5 minutes? Would that be okay?
Okay, 5 minutes, okay.
Thank you so much, my lovely. And then we'll come back and
continue the show.
Yeah, we'll continue and start talking about stages of sleep.
Okay.
Thank you, Jem. Alrighty, are we all back in the room? Is everybody back in the room? Let's just wait, make sure everybody is. Hope you had a good few breakout sessions there. So let's move on to the next part then, and then we'll have another breakout session very shortly. Alrighty, so let's have a look at the 4 stages of sleep, because this is absolutely fascinating to me, the 4 stages of sleep. And this is what actually happens in your body when you go to sleep at night. When you close your eyes, this is what happens. So your sleep is grouped into, there's 4 stages, but it's grouped into 2 stages. So you've got non-REM and REM. Okay. So non-REM has 3 stages, and then you've got REM, which has 1 stage. REM stands for rapid eye movement. So when you're asleep at night, your eyes literally move backwards and forwards, and that's why they call it REM sleep. Baz, what do you want to do?
I'll go through this if you want.
Go on then.
So, as Loz said, we break it down into 4 stages. So the first stage is the non-REM sleep, stage 1. And this is this transitional phase from being awake to being asleep. And I think this is where we have a lot of our issues about I can't get to sleep.
Yes.
I can't get, because it takes around about 7 minutes for us to close our eyes and move into the phase of light sleep. And 7 minutes in this day and age with no stimulus feels like 7 hours.
We just spoke about that literally a minute ago.
And we get a little bit frustrated and a little bit annoyed. Why can't I go to sleep? And this is why we find it more difficult to fall asleep.
So give it 7 minutes, okay?
So we've got to have this little bit of patience and allow ourselves to fall asleep. And this is where our heart rate starts to slow down. Our breathing rate starts to slow down as well. And our eye movement slows down and our brain waves start to slow down. And this is that transitional phase of us falling asleep. Then we move on to stage 2. So we're asleep now. And this is when we're moving further into a deeper sleep. And our heart rate slows down even more. And our breathing rate slows down even more. And this is where our muscles start to relax. And we spend a majority of our time in this stage when we're asleep. So we will keep rotating through all of these 4 stages, but the most time we spend is in this light sleep stage.
Yeah.
And then we move on to stage 3, which is still non-REM sleep, so non-rapid eye movement sleep. And we call this phase deep sleep. And this is a phase where it leaves us refreshed in the next morning. And if we've had a hard night, we need a lot of deep sleep to refresh ourselves and recuperate ourselves. But this is where our brain waves move into what we call delta waves. So majority of times we're in beta. Beta is now when we're concentrating on things, and then it moves into alpha where it slows down a little bit. Then it moves into theta, then it moves into delta. And delta is where we're like proper chilled out. And then from there, it moves into stage 4, which is rapid eye movement sleep.
Can I do
REM
this
sleep.
one?
Oh, go on.
Laura and Barry, can I ask a question?
Yes,
Far
please.
away.
My burning question is, both my wife, we're in our 60s now. I'm 63, she's 62. And we're in a phase of our lives where we wake up at about 3 or 4 in the morning, and then we cannot go back to sleep. And does this 1, 2, 3, 4 still apply in the middle of the night when you wake up and you cannot go back to sleep? Can you comment on that?
Yeah, most of the
Good
time,
question.
it's a good question. It depends on the daylight. If you're living in a part of the world where you're getting a lot of daylight early in the mornings, it tends to wake us up because it's part of our circadian rhythm. But if we are waking up constantly at that time, majority of it is learned. It's a learned behavior.
Yeah.
So we've got to train ourselves to go back to sleep. And this is why the environment that we sleep in is really important, that we have blackout blinds. We have no stimulates. If we wake up in the morning at 3 o'clock in the morning, how many people get up their phone, start scrolling, or the iPad and start scrolling and stuff like that? We're sending messages to our brain that it's wake up time because we're giving it things to do.
Yeah.
So that behavior over a long period of time, your body will go, right, let's get up. wakey time.
Yeah.
So it's about retraining ourselves to just lay there, go back to sleep, try and relax more than focus on sleeping, because that will help that as well.
Yeah. And you're right. You know, my mum and dad, as they've, you know, got a bit older and they're now in their 70s, they will find that they will wake up in the middle of the night. Just as we get older, it seems like we don't need as much sleep. Teenagers need a lot of sleep. So yeah, let your teens sleep. I know it does your head in, but they need a little bit more sleep than we do because they're learning a lot more. But also there can be lots of things that are going on during the day in terms of your activity levels, exposure to light, your bedroom environment, which will definitely go over, is Mike, isn't it? Yeah, which will definitely go over in order to be able to just diagnose maybe what's happening. But as Baz said, if you wake up in the middle of the night, sometimes it can be so frustrating. You're like, I just want to get back to sleep. Why can't I get back to sleep? And we get really stressed with ourselves. Whereas sometimes we just need to go, nothing to do, nowhere to go. I'm just going to focus on relaxation. I'm going to do some breath work. And before you know it, you're probably back off to sleep again.
Breath work and white noise are two really, really good things that you can use to help you get back to sleep.
Yeah. Hopefully that answers your question, Mike. And as we go a little bit further forward, yeah, definitely.
Brilliant.
Excellent, wicked. And then stage 4, which is REM sleep. Now, this is my absolute favourite, right? Because I think this is fascinating. So this is where you will actually start to dream. And a lot of people think I don't dream. You do dream, right? You absolutely do. It's just you don't remember it. But it's this part of the sleep where our body actually paralyzes our muscles. And the reason it does that is so that we don't end up acting out our dreams. So all of these dreams where we're running down the road and everything, it's going through in our mind. We're not actually running in our bed, right?
Or your teeth fall out.
Or your teeth fall out. I mean, you know, how many of us have had those dreams? But what happens in this stage is absolutely fascinating, because as we go from stage 1 to stage 2 to stage 3, our heart rate, our temperature actually drops. But when we then go into REM sleep, guess what happens? Our temperature and our heart rate rises to that of us almost when we're awake, right? So we're going through this kind of phase. And this is where in REM sleep, where our minds are basically starting to file stuff away from the day. This is where memory reconciliation happens, where everything else is where our bodies are repairing. And you will probably go through this around 4 times every night, roughly. Everybody's different, and it's good to track this because you have to find out what's right for you. And the first part of the night, you'll predominantly be in deep sleep. So as soon as you go to sleep, you'll probably go into deep sleep, and that'll be the first part of your night. The end part of your night will be more about REM sleep. So I don't know if you've ever woken up and you feel like you've been mid-dream. That's because you've been in REM sleep towards the end of your sleep kind of cycles. So absolutely fascinating that when you close your eyes, this all happens. And you don't even ask your body to do it. I mean, I just think that is, I know I keep saying it's incredible. So that's actually what happens when we're going to sleep and as we're going through the stages, isn't it?
Yeah.
Is there something coming as a question? I just want to check that.
More of a statement.
Laura and Barry, in India, to go to deep sleep, is there a position done as per? Oh, there is a position done. Okay. Head towards the south direction and legs towards the north. Good sleep assured of 6.5. I love it. Everybody get their compasses out and do a bit of that.
We've got to change our bedroom around.
Give it a go. So you never know, right? You absolutely never know. I'm going to go on to, I'm going to move straight onto this actually, and then we'll have a break in a second, Doug, if that's all right. Yeah.
Sounds good.
I really want to answer this question because I'm thinking it might help Mike here in terms of his question.
1 for 1.
Yeah, we'll do 1 for 1. So we spoke about what sleep is. Let's just have a little recap. We spoke about what sleep is. We spoke about what happens when you don't get enough sleep, and we've just gone over the 4 different stages of sleep. Now, there are actually 8 different factors, okay, that we can do in our bedroom tonight to make sure that we are going to get the best night's sleep, because your bedroom environment matters.
Yeah.
Could you imagine taking your bed and putting it in the middle of Times Square, or taking and putting it in the middle of Piccadilly Circus in London? It would be a disaster, right? So our environment really does help. So we've got 8 different factors here.
Let's start with safety. Safety, what? Safety? We need to make sure our room feels safe. So if you live on a noisy street and you've got your window open, you live on a ground floor and you might think somebody could come through your window, that doesn't feel safe for you to live in. If you have your back to the door, that might not feel safe for you to be in. So we need to set up our bedroom that you actually feel safe enough to close your eyes and go into this paralyzed state of unconsciousness. And so that's the first thing I would look at, is making sure your bedroom feels safe for you to go to sleep in.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a really important thing, you know, and I know some people that struggle with PTSD, they are very light sleepers and they can wake up, you know, within an instant. The next one is physical comfort. So we're looking at physical comfort of the bed, of your mattress, of your pillows, and of your clothes. And in actual fact, there are studies to show that if you sleep naked, you get a better night's sleep. Right? So just an interesting fact that has come up before now. You should be changing your bed, your mattress every 7 years. And you should be changing your pillows every 1 to 2 years, right? We all love a fresh bed to sleep in, don't we? You know, when it's just been nicely washed. I mean, I'd like someone to make it for me, but unfortunately, I don't have that.
You do. I do.
So having that physical comfort is really important.
And the next one is temperature. Some people love their bedrooms to be nice and warm. But it's not the best environment to fall asleep in. We need our bedroom to be, ideally, is 18.6 degrees Celsius, which is, what's that in this?
So anywhere
Fahrenheit?
between 60 and 67 Fahrenheit. So that's 15.5 to 19.4 Celsius.
Yeah, but the perfect temperature is 18.3 degrees Celsius, whatever that is in Fahrenheit. I'm not too sure.
Yeah, because sorry,
it needs to be cold. When you go to bed at night, it needs to feel chilly in bed for us to get a good night's sleep, because our body temperature has to drop down to put us into the light sleep and into our deep sleep.
So closing the blinds, picking cooling sheets and cooling mattresses, especially us ladies as we're maturing in life, you know, we'll get hot flushes in bed. You can take a warm bath or shower before you go to bed, maybe open your windows. So, you know, these sorts of things, again, really help.
Game changer, put an air conditioning unit if you can.
Next one is light disturbances. Now, light is absolutely amazing, because when we look at our circadian rhythm, which we've spoken about before, I believe on the other presentations, our whole sleep is determined through light. So when we get up in the morning, we have our cortisol rise and our melatonin go down. When we go to bed at night, our melatonin rises and our cortisol drops. And it does that through light. So when we are looking at devices late at night, our brain does not know the difference between the sun and you looking at a mobile phone. All it sees is a certain light. So we really need to be careful about how much light and how much screen time we are doing before we go to bed. And so things we can do to make our bedroom as dark as possible, which will actually boost your deep sleep, is things like blackout blinds, tapes over little LED lights, maybe face masks, whatever, eye masks, sorry. I use blackout blinds a lot when I was in the police.
And the next one is in bed behaviors. So many people we speak to before they start working for us, they're in bedroom watching TV, eating some food, reading books, listening to music and stuff like that. It's not, we're training our brain not to go to sleep. And it's all about education, training our subconscious to know what to do when we get into bed. So if we're sitting there watching TV, eating packets of crisps and biscuits, or having cereal in bed, it's not conducive to going to sleep. If we're sitting in bed on our laptop doing some work, checking our emails, it's not conducive to going to sleep. And it's all about training this subconsciousness to know as soon as we get into the bedroom, we get changed into our sleeping attire, shall we say, whatever that is. And our subconscious and our conscious mind know this is what we are going to be doing. We are going to go to sleep. And it starts putting us into the 4 stages of sleep. So it's really important that we understand what we are going to be doing in the bedroom.
I'm just going to, we've got some really great stuff here. Thank you, Jess, for putting this in. East India, where the sun rises across the hemisphere. So this is more precise. It's part of Vatsu or yogic science. I love it. And you've put it in there. Thank you so much for sharing that. And this is why I love, you know, sort of talking about these kind of holistic things, because we get so many different people with, you know, things that have worked for them and different ideas and cultures. I love it. So thank you so much. Hygiene is a really important thing. So looking at allergies. So sometimes when we've got allergies, we go to bed at night, we can end up getting blocked noses, runny noses, postnasal drip, which will obviously cause issues when we're trying to sleep. So things like looking at, do you hoover your bed? How often do you change your sheets? Have you cleaned your mattress recently? You know, all of these sorts of things will affect your quality of sleep.
And then the last one we've got here is smell and air quality. We can use oils, we can use fragrances to put on our pillows to help us actually drift off to sleep. And there's lots of studies out there now saying smelling, relaxation, fragrances can actually help with the quality of our sleep and help us get off to sleep.
Even plants in the room to help, you know, oxygenize and everything.
And also having the window cracked open to get some fresh air blowing through is always great.
Yeah.
If you can.
And then we've got finally noise. So this is noise. So what kind of environment are you sleeping in terms of noise? Whether that's outside noise, internal noise, whatever it is. It's really interesting to look at this. In actual fact, the New York Sleep Clinic actually recruited 10 adults who were struggling with their sleep. And they tested them over a few period of weeks. And they would give them white noise when they're going to sleep. And they would play that to them. And they actually found that when white noise was played, it actually helped them to sleep better. And this is in New York. I mean, if anybody's ever been to New York, I know it's the noisiest place in the world. I had trouble sleeping when I was in New York.
It's not police, it's fire engines or ambulances.
Yeah, or people shouting outside. But yeah, the white noise really did help. So that was a study that was done with the New York Sleep Clinic. If you want to have a look at that, you can find that. It was quite fascinating, that study. So 8 different factors. I want to do another breakout room, if that's okay, Jem, for 5 minutes. Is that all cool? And then when we come back, we want to talk to you about some daytime habits that you can do to help you sleep better in the evening, because the clues are always found throughout the day. So Jem, if you wouldn't mind another 5 minutes on the clock, I would be truly grateful, my angel.
Laura and Barry, I just want to say this whole session was worth it for you to tell us to sleep naked.
Do you know what? Give it a go.
As long as you don't sleepwalk, it's all good.
Exactly. Love it. Thanks, Jem. If you wouldn't mind popping us in those rooms, that'll be amazing. Thank you.
Okay.
Welcome everybody back into the room. Oh my gosh, we are having some absolutely fantastic conversations. I'm loving this. And I want to be respectful of everybody's time. So we're going to move on to the final bit now, which is daytime habits for nighttime rest. Because quite often the clues are found in the day. Yes, the clues are found in the day. So let's have a look at some things that we can do to help us actually be able to get a better night's sleep.
Do you want to do physical, you do emotional?
Go.
Right, so things we can do for the physical body is set get morning sunlight. As I said in our breakout rooms, if we can get outside when the sun rises and get that vitamin D on our face and in our eyes, it produces more melatonin naturally in our body 16 hours, so it's going to help us fall asleep better.
Even if it's a cloudy day,
still get your face out there,
like it always is in England. Okay, so I won't hear any arguments against it, because there's a lot of you in sunny places. You know, always look towards, you know, where the sun is rising
in the east.
Yeah.
And then move your body. Let's start tiring our body out, getting rid of some of those toxins in our body, and that's going to help us sleep during the night as well.
They do say avoid high intensity workouts too close to bedtime, but again, you have to see what works for you at the end of the day. This is all very,
Be caffeine conscious. So we would always say don't have any caffeinated drinks after midday, because there's a 6-hour half-life to caffeine. So if we're having cups of coffee before we go to bed, that caffeine is still surging around our body 6 hours later, which is going to disrupt our sleep.
Yeah.
Stretch before bed. We tend to sleep in the fetal position, so we are all our muscles become short, and when they come short, they become stiff and sore. So go and do some stretching before we go to bed, and that's going to lengthen those muscles and help those muscles relax, so when we go to sleep.
But also when you stretch before bed, you turn the phone off, you don't have any distractions. So again, you become present, you breathe, it winds you down.
And watch the naps. If we are struggling to sleep during the night and we are napping during the day, maybe we are napping too much, and that is taking some of our sleep power away from us. So I would avoid napping during the day if we are struggling to sleep at night.
Yeah, if you do nap in the day, it's usually around 2-3 o'clock is the best time, and anywhere between 20 and 30 minutes.
Yep.
Then emotional and mental. So clear your mind before you go to bed. So make sure that you have, we call it a get to do list. A lot of people have a to do list, but we always call it a get to do list. And spend 5 or 10 minutes in the evening jotting down what's on your mind, making sure that you know what you're doing the next day, because our mind is not for holding on to things. Our mind is for creating things. Make sure you plan tomorrow today, right? Knowing your priorities in advance is going to reduce that anxiety level, give you that sense of control, and help your brain switch off. Have a digital wind down. So set an alarm, right? 90 to 60 minutes before you go to bed. No more doom scrolling, no more emails, no more social media, right? Set a digital wind down alarm, because that will help you, you know, reduce that stimulus that we have, you know, going on. And protect your energy during the day. So avoid any kind of decision overload, batch tasks, you know, and build the in breaks. Make sure you are recharging your mental bandwidth. So make sure you're protecting your energy, you know, throughout the day. So just a few little things there for you to have a look at. And that is what we have for you today. We have covered so much today. It's been tip heavy. We've spoken a little bit about sleep and how it affects you. We've had some great talks in our breakout rooms. I hope you have too. And Doug, we'll just hand over to you to close out. If you have any questions, please email me. I'll put my email in the chat box now.
One quick question, and then we'll close the room, and it somewhat relates to us ending this program while we want more. If we're sleeping and we wake up and we want more, or feel like we need more, even though it seems to be kind of our normal pattern, do we extend the time for 30 minutes or an hour? Do we get up out of bed? What do we do at that point?
I would say if we are getting 8 hours of sleep, I would go to bed and wake up at the same time every single time if we possibly can.
Yep.
Be as consistent as we can, because that creates that routine. If we're only getting like 4 hours and we feel like we need more, then have more up to that 8 to 9 hours. But if we're waking up at 9, we've had 9 hours sleep and we're waking up and feel like we want more, I would get up and I would start my day.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like
Okay.
we'd be shifting our circadian rhythm too much back and forwards. Just get up,
Yeah.
get on with the day.
Don't forget, we don't all wake up like Disney princesses.
Mike, do you wake up like a Disney princess, or you or Wendy?
No, I don't wake up like a princess. I normally wake up thinking, "Oh man, if I could just hit that snooze 5 more times." But that's I used to be. I would wake up early and I am full of energy. I've always been a high energy person, but as I'm getting older, I am really wanting to hit that snooze, and I'm trying to discipline myself not to do that. Just jump right out.
Definitely. Definitely.
That's the right thing to do, right?
100%.
Okay.
Cool. Thank you both, Laura and Barry, for this. Even though we want more, we're going to jump right back into our day. So thanks everybody for joining.
Thank you.
Thanks everybody. Have a great rest of your day.
See you later.
See you
Bye.
later. Take care. Bye.
Ciao.
Cheers.